I'm standing right next to the mic on the camera, that's why too.
I'm just lying back here in the lazy boy.
Huh?
I'm just lying back in the lazy boy here, relaxing.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to start with Saturn the first. Progress may be slow, but you're sure to gain a good reputation, honor, and credit through persistence, acquired ability, worldly wisdom, and continued effort. Notice Saturn's all about duty, responsibility. That's what it demands. It's very dependent discipline. Okay, and it's very a hard taskmaster. The harder you work, the more you get from Saturn. But Saturn is the law. So Jesus or Zeus was the opposite. Jesus said it's not by works lest any man should boast. But Saturn would say it is by works. If you don't work, you don't get it. And if you doubt that, look at the parody of Santa Claus, who is Satan's personification. So you always realize that Santa Claus was fair, but he was firm. If you're bad, what do you get? Rocks or stones or coal in your stockings. That was Saturn. And it's only when you're good do you get good gifts, right? Well, Saturn's the same in your chart. And also Saturn is law. The law. It's the karmic law of things in your life as well. Things that you've accumulated in past incarnations. And so when you do a chart, you're looking at things that are actually revealing where a person has other responsibilities to, if you would, pay their debt. Now, if it's a lot of afflictions, that means they got some crosses to bear. They got some afflictions to overcome in their life, okay? Moon, Saturn affliction could be emotional issues, very straight. It can be family issues, mother, father, Saturn. Saturn, and always remember, Saturn is one aspect of the father, but the other is the son. The son is the spiritual father, the kind of the loving father. Saturn is the stern father that sets the limits and disciplines you if you break those rules. That's Saturn in a chart. So very often when I see Saturn and Moon afflictions, I see a conflict between the mother and the father. The Moon, the mother, the father, Saturn. The strict father, the father that's too possessive, controlling. Controlling's a big word with Saturn. They want to have control. Okay, and it can be very utilitarian. What's the key word of Capricorn? I use. Okay, so the thing with and also Capricorn rules what month? Mostly. January, right. And that's what the name for January came from. Janus, who was what?
Zeus.
Two-faced God.
What does that have to do with the using?
Huh?
What does that have to do with the using?
Well, what it is that people that have very bad afflictions with Saturn can be very two-faced.
Okay, thank you.
We use the term Janus, actually it came from that. That's where two-faced. I mean, Saturn, the way Saturn works is called the subtlest of all the beasts in the scripture. Subtlety. Do you remember I showed you the symbols? You have to understand the roots of these symbols. The circle, the crescent, and the cross. Remember I did that for you? And I told you this is the spirit, the circle, and this is the soul, this crescent, and this is your body. How do you experience pain and suffering and crucifixion? It's on this body. So when you look at these symbols, if you look at Jupiter, you've got the crescent on top of the cross. Okay? The dominating factor is the soul. The feelings are dominant over what? The physical senses, the desires of the flesh, all those things. Whereas Saturn is the very opposite of that. Look at this. We even make a little serpent out of that. That's kind of interesting, where we Saturn, Satan, the devil, the serpent. So here we see cold-hearted Saturn. How can that be? Because the senses dominate the soul. The soul's your feeling, your compassion. Okay, it's a feminine receptive soul. So when that's being dominated by the world, the senses, it has no concern about your feelings. It's all about sensual things. It's about the flesh, the crucified.
And then you have to really feel good physically to be in touch with non-obstacles in your soul.
Oh, absolutely, sure. And this doesn't just relate to this. It's Venus is the spirit over the cross, whereas Mars is what? That we use an arrow, but it's really a cross over the spirit. So Mars is the senses dominate the spirit, whereas Venus says, no, wait a minute, love, the spirit must dominate the flesh. So, Mars says, let's get it on, girl. And the girl says back, no, let's put love first. That's the difference between the two planets, you see that? So when we see that hierarchy, look at Neptune. What is Neptune? Look at this Neptune. The soul, we do the soul, is pierced together with the physical. That's self-denial and self-punishment. That's the monk, the monastery. That's the person that becomes a nun to get away from, self-afflicts themselves, denies themselves the world. You see that? And pierces their own soul to the pain of that. You see how it works? Neptune.
It couldn't be an integration, it has to be a pierce.
It's a self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then couldn't there be that, kind of levitating?
No, you give up yourself for other, you sacrifice.
It's a symbol of the martyr.
Yeah, the martyr.
The martyr.
Sacrifice.
It doesn't mean that
At
they,
a stake.
yeah, it can't mean you don't integrate that energy, but
Mother
it's just
Teresa.
like I have Neptune on a
Yeah.
cross when I was born, so I have a grand cross on Neptune, but Jupiter's on it, and Moon and Venus. I went to prison for 9 years. That was, to me, a monastic existence,
Yeah.
okay? I even saw it that way when I took the test, when they asked me,
Yeah.
this place, I told you that, my mother, a father. So I saw it even then, even though I was in a total destitute state of consciousness in terms of spirituality. I said, this place reminds me of a monastery. How could that come to my mind? It's my soul talking to me. It's like, we got a purpose for you here, Ron. You may not know it, and you may not like it, but we're going to give you some lessons on Neptune and this cross. So anyway, third house, Saturn suggests your career area of 5. Did we go through each of those?
we missed the second.
There you go.
There we go.
You gotta go back.
Okay.
What?
Strong ego must be evolved and an agreeable social persona developed if you have Saturn. Also, people that have Saturn in the first very often have a shyness. It depends on how that planet is setting there. Remember I told you last week, I told you very often that Saturn in the first will produce some deformities of some kind, or dwarfism or something. It also gives very often a very dark countenance, dark hair. Okay? Doesn't always mean that, but it does have that potential. Okay? You have a question?
What was that you just said? I'm sorry.
You
just said something, I missed it.
Dwarfism?
Dwarfism.
Dark hair, dwarfism.
Dark hair? Oh, dark hair.
Dark hair,
Okay.
yeah, and a dark countenance, kind of like
Oh, I see.
you know the Rodin's statue of the thinker? Huh? You've seen that statue? He's
Yeah.
like, that's Saturn in deep contemplative thought. It's kind of like a parody of what Saturn can be, because Saturn's very introspective, very self-conscious also. Okay, fear is Saturn on an unconscious level. You see that? Mars is anger and fear that's demonstrated outward, attacks. Saturn doesn't do that. Saturn's what's called the subtlest of all the beasts in the Bible, Satan. Okay, subtlety is what? Subconscious. That's why, how does two-faced work? I keep pushing. Saturn, how does two-faced work? Huh? Well, Rose, she's really a beautiful person, but let me just tell you something about her. Now I'm going to put a knife in her back.
Well, you're also giving me 2 faces.
Exactly.
You're causing division.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would become that too. You see, if I was doing that, I'd become the accuser. So it's like I taught you about Michael the Archangel. Angle of arc, Michael. Angle of arc. Angle, okay? Angle of arc is fighting against the devil. Okay, so we got Mercury afflicting our Saturn in a chart. In the minds of what? Moses. They always show him dead on a slab, and 2 angels with swords fighting over his body. That's how the artists have depicted that. Michael fighting with Saturn in your chart is conflict in your mind, your thoughts. The word thought, Thoth, is the ancient name for Mercury. It's where we got our word thought from. I told you this last week. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a conflict in the mind of accusing, self-accusing and accusing others in our speech, Mercury. And what does Michael do? Michael is smart. Michael's an archangel. He's the messenger of God. That's who he is. Remember I showed you the throne of God going out from the sun, the moon? Leo and Cancer, outside of that is Mercury's rules. Mercury's the messenger. He's got to be next to the throne, carry those messages. So he's on Virgo and Gemini, right? As you go out from that throne. You go out one more, what do you got? Venus. rules Taurus and rules Libra.
Ah,
And then you go out one more way out. What do you got now?
Mars and
Mars. Who's going to protect Venus? Mars has got to be there. So it rules Scorpio and what? Aries. In the old days, right? Then you go out one more, and what do you got? Jupiter.
oh, I thought Neptune.
And it rules Sagittarius and Pisces in the old days. You see? Then we go out one more, and now cast out to the outermost parts of heaven is who? Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius in the old days. You see this? That's why he's called cast out to the outermost parts of heaven. Satan, the devil, the serpent. So Michael's the archangel, the angel of arc, is fighting against Saturn, Satan. And he's smart. He knows he can't accuse him back. First thing you want to do when someone accuses you is accuse them back. That's the way life is.
Where's Michael on the planets?
Huh?
Where's Michael on that circle? He's just fighting Saturn?
Michael's Mercury.
Mercury, okay.
So it's an affliction between Michael, the Mercury, and Mars. It's a visual way for you to understand these mysteries. You see, the subconscious thinks in pictures. Conscious mind likes words. That's why when we have children, we like to do what? Read them fairy tales, little stories. It brings visuals into their mind. It teaches them ethics and goodness. The Big Bad Wolf, all these stories. You say, oh, they're terrible stories. No, they taught messages. They have profound impart things into their souls that they'll always have. But we don't do that anymore. We sit them in front of a TV and watch violence and all this other stuff. Wonder why they're coming up like they are. Because we don't care. I got work to do. Go watch TV. Yeah, instead of being a mother.
Well, hopefully the TV moves their power, and there could be creative people that work there, paid highly. Let's hope so.
Yeah.
At least when we were small, it was Mickey Mouse, so it wasn't.
Wasn't so bad. Sesame Street.
It was only it wasn't. We didn't have Sesame Street.
Yeah, that's
we had
true.
Mickey Mouse. That was
That's
it,
true.
and it was only on for an hour. After that, there was no TV for us. That was it, Mickey Mouse.
I had Mighty Mouse, and I had those terrible sadistic ones where they chase the farmer's wife after with the knives after the mice and all those, and there's a lot.
We all have different stories to tell.
But they still always did have, they always in those days was good will always win.
Yeah, you have the good and the bad, right?
They were definitely still throwing in values.
Exactly. So where was I going? I forgot what I was talking about before that. I was saying something about what? Oh, Michael. I didn't finish Michael's story. Michael the archangel says he did not hurl forth a railing accusation against the devil. He's very smart. He says, let the Lord judge thee. Smart man. A smart energy, right? Because he knows if he accuses the accuser, what does he know? He becomes the accuser too. Okay, so how do you disengage other people when they accuse you? I shared that in one of my lectures. I had it on board. A simple way to do it is, if that person really knew me well, they'd have a lot more to say bad about me than that. You know what I mean? Or if you really knew me well, you could find better things to say than that. I mean, you think that's the worst thing I've ever done? Or the worst thing about me you can find? Get to know me, you'll find there's other things. Boy, that totally makes them, they don't know what to do with that. Because you resist not evil, the scripture says. Resist not. In judo, you want to learn mental judo. That's how you deal with people like that. You let them go the path they're going to go. Okay. If you come at me and attack me, I want to take that energy and put it somewhere else. I don't want to resist you. I want to accept that. You see, I learned that even as a kid. I remember a guy chasing me, big guy. He was chasing me down, and I knew I was in trouble. And I was a good runner, but he was catching me. And all of a sudden, I just hit the ground. Just went down instantly, and he, flew over me because he couldn't stop his path. He couldn't stop that direction. I let it go in a way. Unknowingly, I didn't know judo at that time, but as I grew older, I treasured that martial art. I think it's beautiful. Anyway, so what are we doing? We're going to talk a little bit about the first house, and so work is required to overcome self limitations, also self-consciousness. Okay, that's Saturn. Okay. It's a separate ego. It's also the kind of ego that can be boastful and proud, kind of like you see that guy that's walking down the street thinks he's so tough and so good and so great, and he's got a little swagger. That's that ego, the self sense that he's separate from and better than other people. That's not the true spirit of God, which is a different integrated spirit. So eventually succeed will come through your ability to manage others, practical ability, and strenuous protracted effort. But that's Saturn. Remember I said Saturn demands effort. Saturn is the law. You will do this if you're going to get that. You will pay the price to earn this. And then Christ comes along and says it's not by works at all. Lest any man should boast. It's not about works. What did he say? You know, it's about your faith. You know, it's about unmerited favor. Unmerited favor. I give it to you without any deserving. You don't deserve it, but I'll give it to you anyway. That's the spirit of Zeus, Jesus. So when you see Jupiter in a chart, you're seeing the spirit of benevolence. People that have good Jupiters in a chart are learning, even if they have crucified Jupiters. If Jupiter's on the cross, okay, whenever you do a chart, you see Jupiter on a cross, that's not so bad. Because you know why? That person will resurrect from his cross, likely as not, from his suffering. That's what Jesus did, didn't he? Put him on a cross, I'll resurrect. I have Jupiter on a cross. I went through a lot of suffering in my life to stand here before you today. I went through a lot of pain in my life. But it all brought me somewhere. It brought me wisdom, okay? I like to think I'm wise, okay? Whatever, that's a little ego serving. But, you know, my prayer in prison was always one prayer. Give me the wisdom of Solomon. That was my prayer. You know, I didn't want money, didn't want fame, I don't want, just give me wisdom. So, okay, so Saturn for his progress may be slow, but you're sure to gain a good reputation, honor, and all that. Persistence, that's a good it's not non-afflicted Saturn. Acquired ability, worldly wisdom, and continued effort. A strong ego must be evolved and agreeable social persona adopted. These qualities will enable you to overcome feelings of fear and self-doubt and to face the challenges of the outer world with courage and self-confidence. A free soul with a true sense of worth and purpose. That's a pretty positive thing about Saturn in the first, but okay. Second house Saturn suggests that your career or area of responsibility in the world relates to the acquisition of money, status, and material possessions. You're required to develop a prudent financial ability, thrift, economy, and a solid conservative investment strategy. All that's based on what? Hard work. You know, everything we talk about Saturn, it's hard work. You got to earn it. If you have that position.
I have it. Me too.
I have it.
In
Saturn in the
Sagittarius.
second.
Okay. And how do you see that in your own life? As it applicable to this?
Not that materialistic.
You know,
No, it's
I've
not
always
really
been
hard.
very methodical. I've had a methodical approach to
Well, you know, you
business
can
always.
either work hard for money or you could be restricted on money and be poor and have to learn very, very diligently how to make it.
I don't even worry about money, and I'm fairly comfortable, but my mom always told me that she never thought I was going to make a lot of money because I could really stretch a dollar. And I think there might be a little of that in there.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, we don't get too personal on this because we're just dealing with the one planet and one position. It's like your nose on your face.
That's my
Yeah. Okay, Saturn financial growth and business expansion requires much hard work and diligent effort. However, success will eventually come through steady and slow returns. Remember, Saturn's slow. Everything, nothing Mars-like, okay? Heavily afflicted Saturn in this position may create a lack and a loss in matters of money and material gain. Again, we're dealing with a total chart. We're not dealing with one position, but I just go over these for you. Third house suggests that your career area responsibility in the world relates to ability for mental discipline, concentration, mental control, orderly reasoning, and logical thinking. Much hard work is required in communication, writing, and obtaining relevant educational qualifications. A profession in teaching, administration, accounts, publishing, or some kind of research is likely. Remember in the Bible, Moses told God, I can't bring these people out of bondage. Do you remember why he said he couldn't do it? He said, I'm slow of speech. That's a Mercury-Mars affliction. I mean, Mercury-Saturn affliction. Okay. Mars affliction, Mercury, I have one. I have Mercury-Mars square. Do I talk fast?
Yes.
Too fast. My wife would say, slow down, slow down. Yeah. But I mean, I do. I talk fast. My mind runs a mile a minute. I stuttered till I was 12 years old because my speech couldn't keep up with my mind. And my father would very wisely, he wasn't my biological father, I didn't know that till I was 12. But he always stopped me. He said, stop, 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 right now. He said, now think what you're going to say and then say it. And it was very wise, actually, because it really was, my mind was running so fast that he would bring me to a stop and make me think it through before I spoke it. Then I took speech in high school to overcome that. And would you not, amazingly, I end up growing up doing radio shows and making a living speaking. I mean, that's kind of crazy, isn't it?
You know, Johnny, you'd be surprised how many actors in Hollywood have
What's that?
there's a couple of people in Hollywood that had to get over stutters. Johnny Carson was one. I think Kevin Costner.
Except the
Probably.
voice of Darth Vader. Oh my gosh.
James Earl
Really? He did? He stuttered too?
Yeah.
And there's a singer that stuttered real bad, but he never stutters when he sings.
Stutterers
Oh,
never
I've heard
stutter
about that.
when they're singing.
Isn't that amazing?
And on
Never.
stage too.
Yeah, that's so
It's
strange.
because they breathe differently.
Is that it?
It's the breathing,
Wow.
yeah.
By the way, you look beautiful. You too. No. I mean, I've known you for how long? I've known you, but you know, today you're just shining. You came in, and it's like you light up this room. There's sometimes people do that. Usually, you know when when I see it the most is when a single girl comes in and she's in love. Wow, you can just see it. You know, she said it's like she's beaming.
I'm not loved,
I know, but you're giving a lot of light today. It's beautiful. You look great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I've seen you go through.
I should come around more.
No, Barbara.
Thank you, honey.
I've seen you go through so much in your life, pain, suffering. Let's talk about a champion. I mean, this woman has battled battles, and she's always come up on top. It's amazing.
You know what, it's funny, because I always know that I'm going to stand up again.
Yeah.
And I do. I always, and I've been down so many times, but
Yeah.
I was the one in Buffalo that would drive through blizzards because people would say I was crazy. No, I know the way. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'll
When you
get
were-
there.
when you were
I'll
airline
get there. I'll always get there.
When you were airline stewardess, right?
Yeah.
You'd make that plane, nobody else would make it, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
thank you very much.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
appreciate
It's
that.
easy. Okay, so let's just kind of run through these a little bit. You know, I use all these just to progress and take you on different journeys all the time. You think you're going to go somewhere with this? It's a trigger for me. It just makes me think of other things I want to share with you. You know? So, you know, that's Sagittarius. I can't help it. You know, try to keep me structured in line. Try to get Saturn to control me. No way. Even Father Time. Do you know how many hours you guys spent last time here?
A lot.
4 hours.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it was a 2.5 hour class, right? We were here for 4 hours together. What a great time we had.
Charge him.
Oh, my bank account back here, right?
Right.
There's discipline in Saturn, okay, in the mind against needless worry, gloom, restlessness, anxiety, and misgivings. With maturity, a contemplative mind. Remember the thinker, rodent thinker. That's the responsible, thoughtful, capable of concentration on a serious or profound subject is developed. The technique of clear communication in speaking and writing is of pronounced importance. But I remember I was talking to you about Moses, how he told God, I can't bring these people out of bondage. I'm slow of speech. And what did God say? Don't worry about it. I'm going to give you Aaron as a mouthpiece. Aaron, your brother, he's going to be your mouthpiece. He'll do the talking for you. Don't worry about it.
Where's his Saturn?
I don't know. It's a scripture, but,
Yeah,
it's
free Mercury.
but I see so many things astrologically. A fourth house Saturn, where I have that in my chart, suggests a career area response in the world relates to home and family concerns. I work out of my home. I have for years and years. I haven't had a job. Worked for anybody since 1983, I think, or 84 was the last time I ever worked for somebody. So I've always worked at home. Much work is required to overcome emotional inhibitions, early conditioning, and irrational fears. That's true for me. Life experience will force you to learn valuable lessons related to the above issues. And many domestic, family, and romantic confrontations will be afforded to help hasten the restructuring process. You know, my mother was married 9 times. I was raised in broken homes, so I was raised in boarding homes, and people that took me in till I was 9 years old. Really, a dysfunctional early life, 9 years of my life particularly. So, emotional insecurity and self-acceptance will eventually come from a true knowledge of self and ability to focus inward, away from the emotional dependency of others. I used to be such that I was so worried about what other people thought. Even in prison, if somebody didn't nod at me and recognize and say hi and have a smile on their face when I went by and said hi, I'd get real worried. I wonder what I must have made them unhappy about something. It was all, you know, it was all this silliness, you know. And then eventually I got to a point where I couldn't care less whether you respond to me at all. I wasn't dependent upon that, but I had to learn that in life. Because I was always concerned that if somebody looked at me the wrong way, that God, did I do, you know, I take it all personal. I must have done something. But they just had a bad day maybe, you know what I mean? It had nothing to do with me.
I'll tell you a story after class on that.
All right. So,
But I just had good eyesight, and if somebody didn't say hello from far away, I was like, what did I do wrong? And then when they're closer, by the time they said hello, I was mad at them, and I had to like, you know, oh, hi. Oh, they love me. No, whatever.
yeah. A need for acceptance. You have a cross with Saturn and Venus. And, you know, that whole thing of feeling alienated in affection and having a problem with feeling loved, okay, as a part of that whole chart. I shouldn't talk about your chart in here, but we could do that, but let's not. Let's go. Saturn in the 5th suggests your career area, responsibility, world relates in some way to personal creative projects, love affairs, and children. In order to succeed in your social position in the world, you will have to gain knowledge and expertise associated with the proper use of personal power. Remember, 5th house is Leo. Okay, it's I will, strong will. It gives it a lot of Leo qualities being in the 5th house. Also, self-expression and control of the ego. One of the problems with Leos is they got to keep their ego in check. Okay, because if they don't, they can become a little bit obnoxious. Life experiences will force you to learn variable lessons relating to the development of a proper sense of values and to dealing with matters of creative self-expression, romantic relationships, parenthood, social life, and control of your environmental generally. Remember, the 5th house is your children. Okay, it's the house of children. Okay. Usually, okay, many related confrontations will be afforded and help hasten the restructuring process. Critical examination of the self and one's ulterior motives is required in order to develop a fully integrated personality. Your profession may deal with speculative investments in lands and property or speculative ventures relating to art, music, school, places of entertainment, or stockbroking. Remember, the 5th house is a gambling house. Okay, we don't think of it that way, but it's speculation. Leos generally can be very lucky too, by the way. I mean, I've seen that over and over. And I've got a daughter and a son that are both Leos, and one just married a multimillionaire at 40. Never been married before, but she picked him. And she loves him, that's more important, not that he's rich. And we went to their wedding in December, beautiful wedding. He put on an amazing wedding for her. And Leo, from our marriage, Andre, who is just a genius of a kid. I mean, and rubbing shoulders with the likes of Elon Musk and those kind of people that are very multi-billionaires. So there's a quality of those people that can attract extraordinary power and good into their life with that Leo. Now, Saturn in there is, of course, sometimes put a little damper on some of those things. So we're not reading the whole chart here. 6th house Saturn suggests that your career area of responsibility in the world relates to efficiency, a job, or a career. Remember, 6th house is servile work. You're certainly working for others, where 10th house is you're the boss. And Saturn likes to be in charge. Saturn in the 6th. Anybody got that, by the way? We go through all these, I don't even ask who's got what. Who had 1st house Saturn? Anybody in this room? Nobody. Who had 2nd house Saturn? 3 of you.
Yeah.
Wow. And then 3rd house, me. Anybody else 3rd house Saturn? 4th house, anybody? That was 4th house is me, rather. 5th house is what? Creative.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're
very, very creative.
You are. You should.
And I also had difficulty with my son, always.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, 5th house.
He's
Your first
finally
house.
calmed down now. He's 33, but he's been Saturn. He's been Saturn.
Been a test all your life.
From always.
Now you see how that works. You see, she's telling it better than this will tell it.
Yeah.
Because you've experienced all that, okay? The thing is about, and it's interesting too, because
I used to say to him when he was little, "Do you have to be Saturn in my 5th all the time?"
did you say that to him, really?
Yeah. And he'd say, "Well, yeah."
That's what I'm here for, right?
Wow, no, that's what I'm here for. Do you have to be Saturn in my 5th?
Yeah. Knowing astrology didn't help, right?
Well, no.
It didn't.
No.
But you know,
an astrologer as a mother, he knows all the terms.
But you know what else is interesting? I know I've given talks at her place and had where she's had groups together, and it's interesting how you take your work, which is astrology, and you started making these things. Remember these little charts?
Yeah.
creative.
The wheels. with
She
the-
makes these wheels, they're really neat. And you can put the planets and transits or something.
Yeah, the planets are on your, it's your chart, but then the planets are magnets.
And you move them in that, you know, so you look. But I mean, that's using creative genius to do what she works with, okay? And that's that fifth house Saturn. I'm gonna take my work and I'm gonna make it into something artistic and nice. You've done that with that. That's an example of that. Okay. So how about the next house? Who's got the next planet? Saturn got, anybody in seventh Saturn?
One.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think that is, son?
Well, let's see. Difficulty in relationships, but I got married when I was just about 30, so a little older.
That's Saturn and
And
it's
I
Saturn.
married an older guy.
Yeah.
And
Saturn.
I love him, but he's not easy.
Now, that would come with heaviness and responsibility.
And he's the most responsible person I've ever met in my
Is
life.
that right?
Yeah.
Is it on your descendant? How close is that?
It might, let's see, 17 degrees is my descendant, and this is at 22, so close enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you would attract that.
Was there, would there be any divorce, or would there be, because you want to hold on to?
No way, no way. I have so much fixed in my chart.
Yes.
You're never gonna let go, right? Also Saturn in the seventh means my partner is very responsible and has a sense of duty and responsibility towards me. No matter
Yeah,
what,
He
he's gonna.
is that way.
You know, if you had to break up, he would still take care of you because that's his sense of responsibility.
That's how he is with our child. I mean, he's the most responsible person I've ever met.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So we're better to get it from you than up here. You see that? Because we can see it working in the chart. you
Yeah,
know?
and I was very irresponsible growing up as the youngest, a little spoiled.
And
So
He's taught you a lot.
me that.
yeah. See, and that's another thing about Saturn. Saturn's a teacher. He's trying to teach you things, and the best way to teach you is these life experiences. So, okay, so did we go around the chart? Whose didn't we cover? Where's your Saturn?
The 8th house.
Eighth house. We're getting there next. Okay, we can't talk about Saturn in the eighth with secrets, girl. I can't even talk about it with you. Look at her. She's getting shy on me here. Oh my God. Hi, Saturn's in my eighth house. We won't tell her. We won't tell her. You're so cute. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble up here real quick. We did 7. We're not. Okay, we'll go on. So not suggest your career. We did all this, but you know, it's important factors likely that your partner is sincere, faithful, and well disposed, possibly older and more serious. Is that what you just described, right?
Yes.
Is that on or not, huh?
Yep.
Possibly older and more serious than yourself, not demonstrative or emotional, but stable in affections, possessing property or status. Okay, so that shows him, doesn't it? It almost talks about him, doesn't it?
It's perfect, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now we're going to skip Scorpio and Saturn. So, she's already blushing, I can't go there, right? Okay. We're still on 7th house Saturn. Force you to learn valuable lessons related to the development of social awareness, strong sense of responsibility in relationships. You must come to realize that cooperation, justice, and mutual agreement are necessary for a stable, enduring friendship and partnership. Receptiveness, tact, gotta be tactful with him.
That's the story of my life.
Isn't it? Yeah. Okay, are necessary for stable, enduring friendships and partnerships. Receptiveness, tact, reliability, and good organizing skills could bring wealth and social standing. Your profession could be in law, business, organization, or management position related to contractual affairs. Anything that helps bring people together with Saturn in the 7th. It's like your work could involve somehow being a mediator somehow, or mediating through, well, you're a writer.
Yeah, and funny, because I worked in a law firm as a secretary and paralegal, probably 4 different law firms.
So fitting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, your chart's talking, isn't it?
It's really talking.
It really is. 7th house is lawyers, Libras, the balance of justice, all that stuff. Wow, it's amazing. Get more out of you guys than I do from up here, right? Okay, so Saturn in the 8th. We're there, girl. You're in trouble. 8th house Saturn suggests that our career area responsibility of the world is gain knowledge and expertise associated with responsible handling of other people's property and money. You would be good at that because remember, the 2nd house is your money. The 8th is
Other people's.
others. 7th house would be the other person. The 2nd house to the 7th would be the 8th. You all got that?
Yeah.
Okay,
You mean it's across the board?
huh?
No, it's a little bit, it's not right across.
Yeah,
They're
it is.
opposite.
Seventh is opposite of
They are
first, yeah.
opposite.
If you turn the chart upside down, you got the seventh house becomes the first, then you can read it almost like it's their chart. Okay, okay, the world is gain knowledge and expertise associated with responsible handling of other people's property and money. Banking, investment, insurance, corporate money, tax, and inheritances. A will to succeed must be developed together with a calm, efficient, determined, and persistent effort for thoughtfulness. That's all we had to say about 8. Look at, we already, we
Bad?
got off of that. We got off that one real quick, didn't we?
I thought it was a secret.
Huh? Yeah. Just blew by you,
What about 9?
9 times.
Oh, yeah.
Career area responsibility of the world relates to interest in higher education, philosophy, science, religion. Much hard work, devotion, and travel are required to attain. You notice every time we talk about Saturn, it's hard work. You don't get by it. You don't earn it unless, you don't get it unless you earn it. Okay, your profession is likely to law, publishing, teaching, higher education, travel, religion, or some other profound area of endeavor. Metaphysics, psychic, and occult subjects may be a feature of your life, and that's very often true. Early life may see mental conflict, religious bigotry, and difficulty in comprehending profound subjects. However, through diligence, effort, there's that hard work again, and achievement, you may gain distinction and become recognized authority with your chosen field of endeavor. There could be some danger associated with foreign travel. Relatives through marriage also could be troublesome in some way. Now let me explain why they say that. Okay, why does relatives of a partner can cause problem in your life? Because the 3rd house to your 7th is your brothers and sisters of your mate. And I have seen that Saturn in the 7th often brings problems with the relatives and the family of the mate, very often with Saturn in the 9th. You see that? Also, Saturn in the 2nd to that 7th house would be the 8th house. You all with me on this? So that can bring problems with money involving relationships. Okay? And sometimes a selfish mate that won't share, like you don't feel he should share more, he should share more, because Saturn tends to be penny, very over thrifty and want to save and keep it for themselves and all that, But you can walk through a chart on so many levels. We tend to think a 7th house is marriage, but what does that marriage house have relationship to it? And what does that tell you about the person you're with? Okay, it can tell you a lot. All right. Okay, I really want to move on. Saturn 10th, Saturn 10th is power. 10th house suggests that a career responsibility will relate some way to attainment of public power and status or positions of authority and professionalism. You may have had a lack of opportunity in your youth and met with obstacles, delays, dull periods, and this. The thing with Saturn in the 10th is that Saturn is in its own house. Okay, it gives it power there. Capricorn is strong and Cancer is weak. Okay, it's the opposite sign it rules, right?
I
Saturn.
think JFK had Saturn in the 10th, didn't he?
I don't recall.
remember?
My memory's not like that. I'd have to go
Yeah,
look at
I know. I
Interesting.
remember all that weird
Yeah.
stuff about charts. But I
You
think-
said JFK?
I think JFK did hit
Well, we
Saturn.
can look at this chart. It's right here in this. Remember this?
Did.
Let me see.
The Saturn in the 10th will
We put his chart in this cosmic
usually
key.
someone who achieves a very high status in the world, and they have a lot of responsibility in that status. So when you see the Saturn or the Sun in the 10th house, that person could attain a lot.
Where did
I'm
it-
sorry, Ron, that I'm.
No, it's worth looking at. Just take a second, but I gotta find it in here. You think I know where it is? Oh, here.